Manchester, New Hampshire, one of the biggest cities in northern New England. A sprawling metropolis with a long and varied history. Hiding deep within its residential homes lies a place where strange things tend to happen. There is a house so haunted that everyone who visits experiences some kind of paranormal activity. Why is this seemingly normal house haunted? What kind of secrets lie behind the house on Myrtle Street? The house on Myrtle Street, a normal two-family home in the quiet suburbs. It was built in the late 1920s, owned by only one family for over 60 years. Dr. David Rosenblum and his wife Natalie, along with their only son Robert, first lived in the house. Nothing out of the ordinary for 30 years. Until one day, something tragic happened. Natalie took her own life in the attic one summer. The reason was never determined. However, the tragedy was quickly forgotten, as not even 2 years later, David remarries a widow named Lillian. The doctor and his second wife live happily until the end of their days. With their passing in the early 90s, a local who lived across the street named Mike Reed acquired the home and started to rent it out. Almost immediately after it became a rental property, the strange occurrences began with every new tenant.
I had well over a dozen tenants over the years. And I've had them come to me and tell me a number of things that have gone on. And at first I kind of, I really didn't believe it, or I kind of brushed it off. But the more I heard, I started to think there was something here and there was something going on. And when my sister started telling me, that really added credibility.
So the lights in the attic, that was happening a lot. The water turning off and on. I have a friend that she asked me if she could spend the night. So she actually stayed in my bedroom, which is at the end of the house where a lot of activity took place. She's sleeping. Her granddaughter, who's only like maybe 6 or 7 at the time, also sleeping in the bed with her. And during the night, she started hearing scratching on the wall. Shortly after that, something very heavy pushing down on her chest. And during the night, the door started slamming. I don't mean closing, I mean slamming. Just in my house. That was it for her. She was up, she was out of the house, she came across the street and spent the night at my mother's.
One of my tenants had a cat, came home and was surprised that the cat did not run to the door to meet him. It was later found that the cat was had I think it was the cellophane that you put over dry cleaning, formed into just a long piece of almost like rope and wrapped around the cat's neck and wrapped around a bedpost, which to me was, I didn't know this till after he left. That was very disturbing.
Sitting in the living room one night, we were watching television, and out of the corner of my eye, and I looked through our dining room door that goes into the kitchen, and it was dark in there. and there was just a darker figure, like a shape of a person, just a shadow of a person, and it felt like something was staring at us. And this is probably like a couple years later, sitting same place, we're watching a movie, and this time I saw that dark figure walk like from our hallway towards the door that goes out to the staircase to go upstairs, and it just kind of walked like that. After that, I'm like, all right. And I told her, I said, "Hun," I said, "I think someone just walked in our kitchen."
My daughter would hear footsteps in the kitchen. Mostly everything happened in the kitchen. And she saw, after putting dishes away, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a woman in the mirror. And she went to look at the mirror. There was nothing there.
A former tenant decides to relive his troubled past and visit the house one more time. Mike DeFranzo. His father and sister lived in that home for 3 years. During their stay, the family was tormented and suffered some of the worst activity in the home.
My name's Mike DeFranzo. I lived in this house probably 20 years ago now. Here I am back inside the building for the first time in 20 years. I've told this story dozens of times, and now I'm telling it where it happened, and I'm like a little bit fucked up about it. So from the kitchen, we started hearing like a moaning sound, human moaning, just kind of a droning, like, but it was definitely coming from the kitchen. It was definitely human. So my sister and I, obviously, we woke my dad up, who was sleeping on the long couch over here. I think he acknowledged it and then brushed it off because he didn't want to deal with it. I just sort of started making my way back, like towards the kitchen. The whole time, by the way, the moaning is continuing, just and so I'm walking like cautiously to this doorway here, and it's like, it sounds like it's coming like from the ceiling down at me. So it was literally, like I said, it got loudest like right here, and it was like and then cut. And as soon as it cut, I got chills all down my body and just was completely physically exhausted. Like, I think I slept the rest of the day. This was my sister's room. She had horrible night terrors. She said that, and I don't know how this fits in with anything, but what she saw in her dreams and her night terrors were that she'd be in this bed. It was up against that window there, and there was a train that would go by. In the dream, the train would stop outside the house, and a man with no face would get off the train and crawl in her window and just scratch at her face with his fingernails. You know, she'd yell, she'd wake up, she'd run down to my dad's bedroom. This was, again, part of the reason that we all started sleeping in the living room together. We assumed she was scratching her own face, because she was waking up with scratches on her face. So my dad, in an effort to curb this, taped mittens on my sister's hands. And the next morning, with the mittens still on her hands, she had a fresh scratch mark down the front of her face. And I remember, especially on the bridge of her nose, it was like completely raw, almost like, fuck you, I'm here. Like, this has nothing to do with her.
Could the activity in the house be related to the late doctor and his wife? There is speculation that one of the entities that haunts the house may in fact be Natalie Rosenblum herself. Being the only known death on the property, no one knows why she took her own life. All these stories grab the attention of a local ghost hunting group. They try to document the haunting with motion-sensitive infrared cameras set throughout the house. They contact a local psychic medium to perform a seance.
All right, so we're going to do our seance. And the first thing we're going to do is hold hands. And I want everybody to just close your eyes. We're going to be holding hands for the whole time. The first thing that we'd like to do is invite in any and all ghosts or spirits or energies that would like to communicate with us or make their presence known within this house. Natalie, are you here with us? Did you just hear a slight thump? I did. Thank you. Can you make that louder? We did hear you. We heard you and we thank you. Can you come closer to us, please? I think you were maybe on the 3rd floor. Can you come into your kitchen? Give us a sign that you can hear us. Walking. Yeah? I hear you. Can you come closer? Come down here to your where you lived. Come down from the attic. Can you come down from the attic? SOS in Morse code. It sounded
Does it sound like it's outside?
It's up.
I
It's
was
up.
gonna say it sounded like
I
it
don't
was
know if it's
downstairs,
outside
like
or.
outside.
I feel like it was upstairs in the
I heard
attic.
something from this direction and then.
You heard something back here?
Yeah,
Well,
I
it
did.
sounded like
I'm
it
hearing
was-
stuff. I'm hearing stuff
But I'm not
to the
hearing
back
much.
and to the right.
Yeah.
To the up and to the right.
To the rocking chair.
Natalie, we hear you and we are so happy and so excited.
If it was rain, we'd be hearing it on the air.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be there.
That's a different noise and there's no animals here.
We stay quiet around that area in general.
Yeah,
We
let-
don't usually hear tapping down.
Show us the energy that you have. If you're really here and you really exist. I now expand our invitation from just Natalie to David Rosenblum. I invite you here, back to your home. We have some of your objects from your workshop. Fireworks.
Well, if it is, it got louder.
Ooh, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, something arrived. I feel cold. It's good. You're doing so well. Can you gather your energy and show us?
During the investigation, the team encountered strange sounds coming from the attic. Their cameras capture strange lights. And during the seance, a strange fog appears between two cameras facing each other. What could have caused these anomalies? Are they proof that something resides in this house? Did Mike DeFranzo experience the sound of someone hanging in the kitchen, possibly coming not from the kitchen, but rather the attic? Natalie's final gasping breaths before the eventual death rattle. Was the man that his sister saw in her dreams the late Dr. Rosenblum? After some research, it was discovered that Lillian, the second wife, was actually related to the doctor. She was his biological first cousin. Did Natalie discover some dark secret of Dr. Rosenblum? Are they the apparitions that continue to roam the halls, reliving their dark past? The hauntings continue to this day. One can only hope that wherever the Rosenblums are, they find whatever peace that escaped them in life.